Greetings, Poe fans. Welcome to another edition of Poe Unplugged. I am Carmen Bolden.
And I am Jeanie Smith, and we are
The Potastic Two.
Come Zoom with us into the Unbook Club dedicated to the works of Mr. Edgar Allan Poe.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Poe Unplugged. And tonight we are going to read or discuss after reading, and let me move my head this way, Berenice behind my head. And I had to find a different picture from Jeanie. That was the one I was going to use, and I'm like, you beat me to that.
That's right.
I thought this one was very apropos. So we're going to get right into it. And one thing that I did want to share, Alex Zavostovich from the Poe Theater, he sent me, he couldn't come tonight because he had rehearsal, and he did send me a link to the Poe Theater on Air where they did their version of Berenice, and it's amazing. So highly recommend that. Go back and listen to it because it is an audio recording, and everything they do is great. So, but all right, so Berenice, and there's, I think, many different ways you can pronounce her name. The reason why I say Berenice, I know when I listened to Vincent Price read it to me this afternoon, he said Berenice. When I went to the Poe birthday bash in 2019 at the Poe Museum, they pronounced it Berenice. They were doing a recitation of it, and they said just rhyme it with something spicy, Berenice, something spicy. And so I thought that was really interesting. So I don't think it's bad to pronounce it whatever way you've always heard it. So,
well, and it also goes with the dialect that you grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I'm from East Tennessee, so we always pronounce it like Bernice or Bernice. You know, it's
Okay.
Bernice or, you know, Bernice. And that's just one of those things. It took me forever when I moved to Middle Tennessee to figure out that pronouncing Lebanon, everybody's making fun of me. They're like, that's not how you say it. It's Lebanon. I'm like, what?
Well,
Lebanon.
Well, Jeanie,
No.
it's written when you coach cheerleading there and they're doing their cheer, it's Lebanon. So
Yeah, Lebanon.
fun, just that's how they pronounce it.
Yeah. So everybody, it's you know, it's a dialect thing. It's basically everything. It's like the hardest thing I had is getting people to stop saying Appalachian. I'm like, there's no sh in there. It's Appalachian. It's like, think of Eve throwing an apple at, you know, Adam, Appalachian. Throw an apple at.
You may have solved the world problem with pronouncing that now.
Exactly. But, you know, I remember my grandmother one time, just a little digress here. She told me, I told her, I said, Mama, it's Appalachian. She goes, is that what we are? I'm like, yeah, that's what everybody else says. She goes, all right, whatever. So anyway, going on, Berenice. Yes. I just want to start it off by saying once and more, I told Carmen this. I think Poe was like smoking something when he wrote this, because I was reading and I was going, dude, come on, what are you on? Because all I could think about was this like a total stream of consciousness type of thing. Because it was like, that's what he was. And then I thought, now this would be like phenomenal if he was writing it as if he was suffering from the mental illness that he's talking about.
Yeah.
Because that was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
The way he was writing it. And all I could think about was he was suffering from bouts of Alzheimer's and bouts of dementia and bouts of, you know, schizophrenia, those kinds of things when I was reading it, because that's the way it come across to me as he was describing it. And then the first time he started describing Berenice, all I could think about is she's a vampire. You know, she's suffering from either leprosy or vampirism.
Yeah.
But that's what I started getting. So, you know, somebody else want to jump in there, but, you know, dude was smoking something when he wrote this.
Well, and I know epilepsy was mentioned, I think, a couple times.
Yeah.
So, and it seemed like her illness came on very suddenly. It wasn't something that she suffered with for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Which is why vampirism popped in my head.
Okay. That's
And leprosy, because
yeah.
the way he would talk about how her hair was falling out because of zombie,
Mhm.
the whole zombie thing came into my mind. And I'm like, well, that's where they got zombies from, is from leprosy,
That's
you
true.
know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and actually, one of the things that surprised me is I didn't realize that epilepsy was actually diagnosed that far back,
Hmm.
because I mean, think about it. The infancy of mental illnesses or illnesses in general was still there. So epilepsy, all of a sudden it's like, okay. I know they were still diagnosing epilepsy in the early 70s by just doing x-rays of the brain and seeing if you were leaking blood.
Mhm.
Ask me how I know that. So they told me that I had epilepsy when I was young. So yeah, because they took an x-ray and they saw something on my brain and I'm going, nope, never had an episode. So who knows?
I think,
Weird.
Dr. Jeff, were you gonna add something?
No, I just asked her, how do you know that?
Oh,
That's how I know. Yeah.
well, and
I'm a weird duck, but you don't know that by now. Somebody's not paying attention.
that's true.
I'm just saying.
Well, this was published in 1835, so it was, very close to around some of his best works were, written and published. And so just thoughts, everybody, like what did y'all think of this one?
I agree with Jeanie right off the bat. When I was rereading this, I was like, wow, this is such great insight into the mind of someone who's not mentally well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it might be the first of its kind. It's like a true introspection. Like, he admits that he knows he's not well, he knows that he's not normal, and these are all the weird things that he's thinking about through his day where he actually just can't function. So I was like, right off, I was like, wow, this is like such great, like, like inside the mind of like a psycho, essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that was really cool because I didn't like. There were some things that I mean, it's been years since I read this one, and there's a lot of things I had forgotten, and that was one of them. And I guess I'll just kind of skip to kind of towards the middle. The other thing I had totally forgotten, which I think I'm like kind of like a dark romantic kind of person. Like, I like dark romance, and the part where he said that he never really loved her, I didn't
Yeah.
remember that, and I was kind of like, ouch, right? Like,
Yeah,
he was
I
proposed to her. He's oddly obsessed with other things, including her teeth, but he never really loved her. And I think the ending would have been more powerful because he didn't realize what he did if he would have loved her.
I
But
agree
he makes that
because
distinction that he never did. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not
I
sure why he did that.
I didn't remember that either, and that was kind of, I was like, oh, and I guess I may have not paid attention to it before. Sometimes when I listen versus actually physically reading it, I pick up on more things, and I always pick up new things whenever I reread something. But the one thing that I thought was really interesting is, Poe, one of his, shticks is he always has an unnamed narrator. And this narrator is named
Mhm.
Aegeus. And in Greek, that means shield, which I thought was very ironic to him loving her, obsessed, or not loving her, obsession with her, but mainly more about her mind and her teeth. And then what he does to her at the end was not shielding her at all. It was like the opposite. And so I thought that was very, very deliberate on Poe's part to build that irony.
Yeah, because in the end, he kind of shielded himself. Like, he didn't know what he did. So
Yeah,
kind of like his mind was lying to him, like playing tricks on himself, too. That's kind of cool.
yeah. So I thought that was just a really neat thing because I was like, his name sounds familiar, but not. And so I looked up what it meant, and that's what I had found. So, all right, what everybody else thoughts?
Well, one thing I thought was interesting, what Holly just talked about, was when he said he never loved her. But and I went back and found it again in my copy, my paper copy of this. And what I thought was interesting when he said, let me find it, I'm going to quote it. Yeah, he wrote, and I quote, "I knew she had loved me long, and in an evil moment, I spoke to her of marriage." He said, in an evil moment. You know, he already said earlier he never loved her. But now he says, I know she loved me, but in an evil moment, I asked her to marry me. I don't understand that. I don't know where he's going with that. Why? What was evil about it? Because he offered someone to marry that he didn't really. He loved her, but not in that way. He almost like had OCD when it come to her. He was just compulsive, particularly about her teeth, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But that part where it says evil, it was an evil thing I did to ask her to marry me, and I just thought that's weird.
I love
You know
that
what I
line.
mean?
I forgot. Yeah, it stood out to me too. I absolutely
Yes.
love that line. And you know, as a crazy woman here, because you guys know I'm crazy by now, right? Like Jeannie, like I'm not normal. I was just thinking because it's like because he knows he's playing with her affections, right? And there's nothing worse than to play with a woman's affections, to lie to her. You know, marriage to a well, I think still to women today is like that means you love me and you want to be committed to me, and he's a lie. Like this dude is a liar. He's a lie. You know, maybe he's doing it just to try something new. Maybe he's doing it to try and make her happy. But at the end, like he is a liar. So yeah, to me, I think it's like an evil act to kind of say to somebody, "Yes, I'm gonna, go into the union of marriage with you," but inside he knows that he doesn't love her, and he really couldn't care less about her in that kind of way, in the way that she cares for him. Like their love is well, there is no love on his side, but their relationship would not be equal. But I love
I
that
think,
line. It totally stuck out to me too.
I think he was infatuated with her.
Yeah.
Well,
That
I get
smile.
it. Yeah. Well, and the
Yeah.
one thing is from his writing, then everything, like we were talking about at the beginning, that it was like he was coming from, you were looking at the dementia or the psychosis that he's writing from. And I was getting like a sociopathic, psychopathic tendency because he would be talking about things. And then when he would say that it was, the evil moment that I asked her to marry him, because to me, that was telling me that he had no capacity to love.
Yeah.
In essence, he knew she was his cousin. He had a, obsession with most things about her, but they were more on a physical aspect. Like he thought she was smart, he was family. But I kept getting this detachment, the detachment from reality, that it was like he could not comprehend emotions. So therefore he couldn't love her. So that's why he thought it was evil to ask her to marry him, because he knew why he was asking her to marry him. Basically, that's what he thought she wanted. That's what I got from it, is he was only doing it because he knew she loved him. So he was just doing it out of, hey, I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, playing at being
And
normal. Yeah.
exactly. So that's what I got out of it. So, and to me, that would fit with the evil side of it, because to me, he could spout about everything that he was thinking and about how he had this, going on about his stream of conscience. Like I said, everything that popped into his head, his reading, his library, his obsessions. So it was very much not emotional, but emotional. But it was from the opposite end. Go, Jeff.
I took it a totally different way. Maybe I misread it, but to me, I thought he meant by saying in an evil moment, it was like he was saying in a reckless moment, in an unguarded moment, in an impulsive moment. I asked her to marry me. Evil not meaning evil like sinister, but evil meaning capricious or ill-advised. Um, and his maintaining that he didn't love her might have been just lying to himself, or like the narrator in Annabel Lee, who's trying to convince himself, yes, that the angels were jealous of him. Maybe this narrator, Aegeus, is trying to convince himself, well, I didn't really love her, to try to detach himself, or put distance between himself and her. Um, but I thought this story certainly was lurid, worthy of EC Comics. And Poe got into trouble over this story because some of the magazine readers complained that it was too violent, vulgar, gory, lurid. And so he later printed a censored version where he toned everything down and took out several paragraphs. He later went back to the uncensored version, and I think that's what most of us have in our books. Mine says Berenice Uncensored, 1835. Um, so yes, this was sort of a forerunner of many of the ideas that he used in future stories, like the
Mhm.
obsessive love and I'm nervous. I am, but I'm not crazy. Let me tell you what happened. So I enjoyed rereading this one. I had read it a year or so ago, but I really enjoyed reading it again. And I watched. You mentioned that Vincent Price, in his narration on a record, called her Berenice. So does Christopher Lee in
Okay.
a short-lived TV show from the mid 1990s called Tales of Mystery and Imagination. I think
Okay.
it was syndicated in England, but it was shot in South Africa. But I believe Christopher Lee, who did the wraparound hosting, introducing and intro and outro, did his scenes in Europe, except for one that he acted in. But he too called her Berenice. Um, but I guess, when as Jeanie was saying, at first glance, if you look at that name, you're going to think, well, I guess it's Berenice or even Bernice.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then Micah says he reminds me so much of the narrator of The Black Cat. He often knows and even admits he is doing wrong, yet he continues. And very much so. And one of the other things I picked up on too was early on he talks about that he's all about the mind, and like he's his the work he does maybe is something scientific where he's experimenting in things. And so it was like, is he kind of treating her like a mouse in an experiment of marrying her? I mean, I kind of went a little bit, I guess, darker, I don't know, but it was like, let's just see what happens. But then I went back and was like, okay, they're cousins, they've lived in this house together, they've grown up together, and so obviously they know each other very well. But yet again, I think the monomania takes over. And I think just from things I read about the story, as well as just picking up things within the story, reading it, it's like his psychosis is coming out with just like the skin of schizophrenic, things, he's erratic, he seems calm sometimes, and it's just you get all these different kinds of personality traits coming out with him.
So Carmen, I mean, you use the word monomania, which is what I was zeroing in on.
Yeah.
And there was a passage, we talk about favorite lines.
Hmm.
For me, it was, let me not be misapprehended. The undue earnest and morbid attention thus excited by objects in their own nature frivolous must not be confounded in character with the ruminating propensity common to all mankind. He seems to be acknowledging this fixation. So there's a self-awareness about it, which on the one hand, maybe makes him a little more sympathetic. On the other hand, makes it a little more creepy. That he's acknowledging this, and almost leaning into it.
Yeah. And it's weird that someone that, like, let's just say he is schizophrenic or he is sociopathic, would he really know that he is this way? Or, it depends, I guess, on how far into the mental illness he is. You know what I
What do you
mean?
think about? What do you think about these such similarities? Because what about 5, 6, 7 years later, he wrote The Telltale Heart, and there's one thing very similar in there. In this one, he's fixated on her beautiful teeth.
Mm-hmm.
He never really explains why. Not that I can remember. He explains why he's fixated on the teeth, but in The Telltale Heart, he says, "I don't know why I killed the old man. I actually liked the old man. I loved him. He never wronged me, but it was his evil eye."
Yeah.
And he was just kind of fixated on that again. And it's almost kind of like, I know this is wrong with me, but I can't help it. This is just the way it is. But I thought it was interesting how such similarities he carried over a similar theme a few years later.
Yeah, he definitely did. And I think the one thing that I took from it, of the obsession with the teeth, is that especially when she started becoming ill, all of her beauty left her. Her hair was falling out. It turned from blonde to black. She had the high forehead. She had the sunken in, temples and everything else. And she like grew taller. She was just, very thin and pale. And so the only thing that stood out in beauty was when she smiled with her teeth. And I think that was what he never said why exactly, Mike, but I think it was just that was the only thing left he could love, if he had any love at all for her, was the teeth. But really, it was more of an obsession. Like Holly said, he didn't love her at all.
You think maybe he's trying to like comparing his weakness with hers, his being a mental weakness and hers being a physical weakness?
That's true.
Because as I reread it again yesterday,
Mhm.
and the thing kept coming to my mind was this: does good come from evil, or does evil come from good?
That is
Exactly.
true. That is
I
a
couldn't get
really
it
good
straight.
point. And you kind of wonder, is it depending on the case of what's going on? Oh, if you can hear
Yeah.
my cat, he has a toy that we call the Conqueror worm. He just killed it, so he's proud. So he won't let me pick him up. So just, if you heard it, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with Mike when he's saying that, good come from evil, evil come from good. But it also goes back to the nature versus nurture. Like we had the debates in criminology classes, is everyone born inherently evil, or is it the environment that makes them that way? So, and then like you're saying, is, he obsessed with her teeth and the physical ailments because he is attributing to his mental illnesses. It's like he's seeing the physical aspect of his sickness right there in his face. And it's kind of one of those things. It's like, what is it? Is it just the obsessive, or is the teeth? Because one thing that also the teeth, he talks about how they've grown, how they've elongated, and nothing is staining them. Nothing is, you know, marring them. They are like the perfect thing that's left of her. So it's like the one thing that's not been blemished by the sickness. And that's maybe why he's fixating on it, because it's the only thing left. And that's one of the things that vampirism popped into my head when I was like, well, the teeth, there they are.
Well, I mean, honestly, that's a valid point, bringing up the vampirism, just because not only just the teeth with what you just said, and just her physical appearance in general, just the paleness, she, thinned out, her hair changed colors and all of those things. So,
And she wasn't really dead at the end. Like they're going back to like a premature burial. She was actually, everybody thought she was dead. They buried her and she was not dead. So
Well, and also if you think about it, the different aspects, or the different well, I don't know what you would actually species, I guess you would call, of vampires. There's one Nosferatu. Nosferatu, this is what fits it perfectly. This is, they are not the beautiful Dracula type thing. They are like the underbelly of the vampire world where they are not beautiful. They've got these weird looks. They've got the elongated foreheads, that kind of thing. So that's why it kept popping into vampirism for me, because she fit the Nosferatu part of the vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, at the end, she's not really dead, but at the same time, is her body missing because he's done something to it? Because the teeth are the only thing that he has brought back with him, or something like that. And him not remembering it could be a fugue state, part of his own disease. And I know not all schizophrenics are diagnosed the same, that some schizophrenia, they actually do know that what's happening, and they remember things, and they know that they're not well. So that could be it, that he knows. And he also could have a type of split personality.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
To where he's like, ooh, I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm collected, I'm a nutty, crazy, I have no idea what I'm talking about. What did I do? Kind of thing. So, hey, I have to say that this is the one that to me really expresses Poe's stretch as a writer, because he really shows off his grasp of the language and how he can control it, how he uses it, how he can, I want to say inflict, because inflict ideas into people's minds. So, that kind of thing. I will have to say it's not one of my top, but it is one of my favorites of showing his talent. I'll have to say.
I would totally agree with that. And Steve added, I think Jeanie hit it right on the head. The teeth were the sole remaining aspect of her beauty. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jeanie, I agree. I have always liked this story. I mean, as creepy and dark as it is, and this is another one, and I probably say this a lot. This is another one that gets overlooked, for I think Morella is probably more popular than this one. It just seems that it gets mentioned more, but I think people forget about Berenice. And one of the things I looked up to see if there were any film versions of it. The only thing I could find was that there was a short in 1954, and I think it was about an hour long. And then there was something in 2012. And then Dr. Jeff, you mentioned the from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, why has the horror community not embraced this particular story? Because you could do so much with it.
There might have been an adaptation on the CBS Radio Mystery Theater.
Okay.
Or maybe one of the classic Golden Age radio shows. I'm not sure.
Okay. But I think this one would be very good to see on film. It really would. The only thing.
So, Carmen, I'd be interested for you to draw that out a little bit, because I guess I viewed this as a set piece. There's one. He had this idea of the ending. He just kind of built to it.
Yeah.
How do you elaborate on that? How do you expand the story to a film?
To a 1.5 an hour and a half or 2 hour film. To me, because they're cousins, they've lived together, there could be some really cool flashbacks going back to when they were kids. of them interacting with each other and maybe his mental illness building or beginning. And just maybe if there was some obsession as he was a child, and then kind of keep going with more like stretching out the relationship longer as adults and showing them interacting together. Maybe obviously you'd have to add in some more characters. There is like the caretaker that comes in that wakes him up and things like that. But I really think one of the things that I watched a interview about Roger Corman, that he said that basically with the Poe movies, because the stories are so short, you've got to add that extra act in outside of the story. And so that's where the elaborations came from, how he did the films. And so I think that's what you'd have to do, is add that extra act, which is based on the story, or loosely based on the story with some interpretations. But that was kind of, if I was making the film, that's what I would do.
Was he married to his cousin at the time he wrote this story about being in love with his cousin?
Let's see, they were married
1835.
their wedding anniversary is May 26th. Let me look it up real quick because I always forget the year. Let's see. Because that's a very good question. It was, let's see, 1835.
Well, so there you go. I wonder if that has something to do with
Oh,
it.
no, wait, hold on. No, 1836. Looks like 1836.
Hey, to me, this would be his perfect conundrum that he's fighting with himself about his love for Virginia and wanting to figure out that would it be, the ideal to marry her. But on my aspect of turning this into a movie, I don't think it would work very well. This is just from my own point of view. Because if you try to, I think you will damage the way that he has written it, because in some aspects of it it would lose translation. It would definitely be lost in translation, in my opinion, if you try to expand upon it. Because one thing I've always said is Poe always has this way of not really giving you a beginning and not really giving you an ending, so you can fill it in yourself. So that way he leaves it for the reader's interpretation. And I think once that you try to fill it in, then, you may miss what he actually has in store with the story, because you may damage him, being cray-cray when he writes it, if you put too much in the beginning, why then by the time you start bringing in the true aspects of where he's writing this, it may not come across as the true psychology of what he meant it to be.
Yeah. And that's possible. And that may be why no one's really done an interpretation of it. I mean, that's very possible.
I'm with you, Carmen. This should absolutely be on TV. They have that show now, The Curiosity Cabinet. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because I always butcher it. It would be a great little 1 hour. You know what you do? You start off with the crime scene. They have this woman, her teeth's been ripped out, because a lot of people won't know the story, right? And then you backtrack it with flashbacks. And then you think this really stand-up guy, and then you start to realize, like, who's the crazy one who did it. And at the end, the culprit is the loving fiance of the dead woman, and you realize that this guy is absolutely bonkers in the end. But that's how I would do it if I was directing or whatnot.
That's a good way to, because
definitely there's so much like little things in here, and especially because he's very intelligent, right? And it's when you're really intelligent, you can fool people. You can, they were saying, like, playing, like Jeannie had said, like playing at being normal. So you could really take it like he's normal, he's concerned, and then you start getting like these little weird glimpses of things that he does, or like or like moments where he's missed time or slipped time. And of course, you have to add extra characters in there, because you don't want it to be obviously, well, if it's only like a 2-man show, like obviously he did it. But I definitely think there's room to expand on that. Because I watched the Curiosity Cabins, like the first season. They did a lot of Lovecraft. They did 2 Lovecrafts in there. They did some other short stories. And you know what? They didn't do a Poe.
Nope.
And I wasn't really sure. I was kind of thinking to myself, like, man, there were some like short little Poe ones because they changed them quite a bit. Like they weren't really true to the short story. And I'm fine with that when you're doing cinematically. I'm really okay with that. As long as at the end you still have a good product and I like the story, I'm okay with you changing stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. I would love to see some Poe on there for sure. And that would be a good one because people wouldn't know the story. And then they would go back and be like, wow, this is really kind of like messed up. Like this guy's messed up. Because teeth, for whatever reason, I used to work in the dental field before I quit my job.
Right, that's right, Holly.
People hate teeth, right? Like people hate dentists, they hate the profession, they never want to go. And for whatever reason, teeth are scary to people who are not in the dental field. If I had $1 for every time a patient told me they hated the dentist, I would be a millionaire. Like, so people it's like that weird thing, like we want to be scared of monsters, but when you have like that real life horror of like seeing someone's teeth ripped out, it's almost too real for people.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why it had to be edited, like what Dr. Jeff was saying. Like, I know like the Black Cat was also edited and there's versions of that where it's like censored. But something about teeth really bother people. So I think just the creepy factor of teeth in itself, like, like camera shots of teeth, like, I mean, because I'm one of those people, like, I'm always like looking at your teeth, like, like, yeah, they're, I mean, as beautiful as they are, they're unique. They're almost like fingerprints, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's like a lot you could do with the creepy teeth angle for sure.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you think about it, not a lot of movies are out there that are horror films that dealing with teeth.
Just like the dentist. There's like actually a movie out there. I worked for this one dentist, and he's like, the first time I met him, he's like, my favorite, because he was a character. He's like, my favorite movie is The Dentist. He's like, have you ever seen it? What they do with all their teeth. I'm like, you are creepy, my friend, but so am I, so it's okay.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah.
Well, there's actually a movie that is coming out. It's called The Smile, I believe.
Oh, really?
That where it's all about that people, they get this grin on their face, and if you see it, within a certain time, then you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So
Smile 2 is out now, the sequel.
There's a sequel. I haven't even seen the first one, so Smile 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I was thinking of when I was reading. I was like, and another thing is that I was thinking about a clown. How it's not really the teeth, but more like the red lips, but they highlight the white teeth of a clown. So that's kind of what got me too, is like when he's fixated on the teeth, I'm thinking the way he's describing that and the way she looks, I mean, that's like the creepiest clown I've ever seen. It's like it as a zombie. That's what it is.
Yeah, and then Steve mentioned Dennis scene in Little Shop of Horrors. I forgot about that. And Dr. Jeff, don't forget the scene in Marathon Man. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Do you think it's possible that the enlarging of the teeth has something to do with? I'll tell you a real quick one. I remember a cousin of mine years and years ago, and well, actually, it was my cousin's wife years and years ago. Beautiful lady, and she got this horrid disease called Hodgkin's disease, and she lost weight, and she didn't know nothing she could do because the white cells were just tearing her body up. Anyway, before she died, her beautiful face had shrunk so much because of the weight loss. Her teeth, I remember her teeth as she laid in her coffin. Of course, her lips were shut, but you could see the imprint of her teeth, and they looked so huge. And I'm just wondering if maybe Berenice, her teeth was exaggerated as part of the deterioration of her beautiful body.
That's true.
Could be.
And
I have the medical. It's actually what Berenice's had is and it was actually periodontal disease. Severe forms of periodontal disease, your teeth are actually anchored in your jaw with bone, and certain diseases or poor dental health will actually cause the bone to go away, which gives it the illusion of being elongated and looking larger. So it's actually just severe periodontal disease, and it'll actually get to the point where you'll have a tooth be like completely just held in by this tiny little thing wiggling, and it falls out. So really, it's an optical illusion. It's actually a real disease. Lots of things can cause it. Stress, stress can cause it. Being too aggressive, not brushing enough, not flossing enough. It's kind of like a fine. I used to say at work. It's kind of like finding that fine medium. But yeah, it is literally a thing. It's periodontal disease, and in her case, severe periodontal disease. And that's probably, he pulled out 32 teeth. That means that he also pulled out her 4 wisdom teeth. Top wisdom teeth, super easy to pull out. They pop out. Bottom wisdom teeth, ouch. You're usually going to an oral surgeon. Of course, he thought she was dead. He probably didn't care about all that. But the chance of pulling them out beautiful and whole like that is also an indicator that she had periodontal disease. But about that, there was a story in one of my kids' books when I was little. Like I had like a little story of horror stories for kids, and one of them was a story about teeth. Have you seen that where he like kind of gets out of his bed at night and he runs into a man and he notices that he has a really big smile, and he goes to the next block and the guy's teeth are even longer, and then he goes to the third block and they were completely all teeth. Again, like kind of like now that I know it's an adult, I was like, man, that story's about periodontal disease. But yeah.
Now you're just bringing way too much science into it.
Sorry, guys.
You sound like me, Holly. You sound like me, Holly. Quit that.
Sorry.
Somebody always brings science in. Usually it's you, Jeanie.
Yeah.
I know. It works.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Anything else from Berenice that you guys liked, hated, loved? Anything?
I like that story.
Too.
I like it a
I do
lot.
too.
I think it's probably one of my favorites. As
Very
opposed to
fascinating.
one that boggles me like William Wilson. That just confuses the heck out of me. But
I
this one
love
was
that
kind of-
one.
I like that one as well.
It confuses me.
This is one of the Poe stories that I think would be read better if you're drunk. I'm just, it's like sometimes when I watch a movie or I read a story and some of it's like, I think I need alcohol because it might make it just a little bit better, because it just take that edge off and release some of the inhibitions and some of the, because I have a tendency to be too critical in some areas. So I think that might help.
Jeanie.
I know. I don't know where I would get that from. I am not that critical. Yeah, that's why my friends call me the literature Nazi. But okay, it's just the way I am.
Well,
I don't know. Some words with a mummy. Maybe I need to be drunk to read that.
what you just said about you needed to be drunk to read this or hear it or whatever. That just makes me think of Drunk History, the TV show. So
Exactly.
now they need to come out with drunk literature.
There you go. The before and after.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. What work with it? Sorry.
Okay, we've come up with a lot of ideas for TV and movie for what is it? Guillermo del Toro.
I always say his name wrong.
Yeah, him, and I forget who does Drunk History, but yeah, drunk literature.
That's right.
And that's how they identify bodies by their dental work, their teeth.
Yes.
That's another thing.
Yes, Lil, that's a very, very good point.
Thanks.
Yeah, forensic files.
Yes.
I guess what I like a lot about the story is it's not a long story, but he starts out without giving really any hint where he's going, and then he starts to introduce this topic of the teeth, and you just kind of get this sense of inevitability, that grows until the end. But I guess I'm saying the pacing of this short story is really masterful.
Yeah.
And that's why I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Great.
that's one of the things I always say, that this shows off his talent, because it is very masterful how he builds it and how he conducts it. It's like an orchestra, in my opinion. The intro, the build up, the intro, the playing of each section, and he brings them all together to make the symphony.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I don't know where that came from, but okay.
No, that was good. That was good.
Well, I have my moments.
All right. Any
Okay.
last thoughts on Berenice, or should we rebury her?
I just
For-
wanted
Let's
to say
read them.
I agree with Dr. Jeff. I think it was a great showpiece of works to come. You can really see a little bit of all the other stories, like that he took those ideas and he elaborated on them through his works. So to me, I think it's just like a really great, like, you get a little bit of everything, you know. And I mean,
Yeah.
I probably like it more than other people because of the dental thing, but I really like this one.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we solved her illness. It's what is it called again, Holly?
What was the
Periodont.
teeth? She had periodontal disease, but like
There you
that
go.
can just be just like amongst other things can cause it.
Yeah.
Any sort of disease or like malnutrition could all cause that.
Yeah.
Ooh, we can call it Poe Unplugged CSI.
Yeah, it's like a
The
secondary
forensic files of
effect.
Poe. Yeah.
Oh my word.
What?
Steve, this was a total ringer of a topic for Holly to talk dentistry. Absolutely.
I know.
Right.
Oh my goodness, let me tell you how many hours I've spent on how to brush your teeth with patients.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, not at
Nightmares
all.
of it.
Oh my
That
God.
would work.
Well,
Were you a hygienist or?
Yeah, I was an eye hygienist. Yep.
Yeah, but do you still do it?
I'm still certified, but I haven't. When I quit my job to be an author because I'm crazy. Yeah, no, I haven't done it in close to since COVID. I left my
Oh.
job during COVID.
right.
Mhm.
So, and you know what? I do not miss getting spit on for a living. I had some really great patients. I know still miss me. Like, when are you coming back? Never, guys. But uh, it's a hard field. It's a hard field to work in. Definitely
Mhm.
long term. There's a lot of burnout there. They say like dentists are the most suicidal of like
I've heard
all
that.
like professions. It's
Mm.
a hard profession, So I'm not sad to have left it behind. But I'm glad that I still keep up on my certs and everything. If I ever have to go back to it, heaven forbid. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the dentists probably get bit more than veterinarians.
Yeah.
There is a lot of biting, a lot of like spit I mean, like I said, like spitting in your face. It's never been intentional, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
it gets kind of gross,
I
Yeah.
think it does.
Like, why do they do this? Why do they want to do this? I don't know.
Oh well, it's one of those things in life.
It's one of those things, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, next month for December, we are going to do manuscript found in a bottle.
Oh, okay.
And our Gothic guest next month is Jason Markiewicz, and his newest production is Manuscript Found in a Bottle. And we showed that on our Halloween special, and I'm pretty sure he still has that free on his YouTube channel right now. And so read it, watch that, or listen to his adaptation of it. It's phenomenal. And we had to move it up instead of the last Tuesday of the month. I'm pulling up my calendar. The last Tuesday of the month is New Year's Eve. So we kind of figured that was not a good day to do Poe Unplugged. Week before that is Christmas Eve. And so we've scheduled it for December 17th, that Tuesday. So it's the middle Tuesday of December. And so normally we'll do the last Tuesday of the month, but December usually always has us figuring out a different date.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll put that out there in the next couple of days.
And our 100th episode is next month
Yes.
for our
Congrats.
our regular Poe cast. And so for those that have
Yes.
already sent in
Thank
their video, we like to say thank you. And
Yes, thank you.
even if it's not a video, we, just send in a little blurb and we'll put it together for you.
Absolutely. And several of you guys have already done it. So thank you very much. They're awesome.
Yep. We appreciate it very much.
So anything else before I was trying to think of a witty dental teeth type joke, but my brain's just not there. Holly?
Before we extract ourselves for the evening, I don't know.
Thank you. There you go. That's what I was trying to pull out of my brain.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us cut our teeth on Poe.
Yes.
That's
go.
That's better than mine. See, he's witty.
Let the chew the fat with Poe.
Yes, and I have nothing. I'm tired.
Understand.
So,
all
right. Well, guys, thank you so much. And we both hope you guys have a fantastic, happy Thanksgiving. And we look forward to seeing you guys in December. And thank you so much for joining us. This was a great discussion tonight.
That was fun.
It was. This was a good one. And again, if you guys have suggestions on what to read for January, February going forth, send them our way. Just send us an email, because we would love to read and discuss what you guys want to talk about. So,
Coolio.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Good rest of the week.